everybody, this is GenJeFT here, and I'm going to do a quick and dirty tutorial because I have seen a bunch of things while playing the game that people just don't understand or they're too new to get or whatever. So, I unfortunately have this as a closer engagement battle, but doesn't matter. Still works. Oh my god, these guys suck. There's 4 people in that unit. Okay. Interesting random deck choice. Thank you, game. So, one of the first things we're going to go through is deployment and orders. So I'm going to grab a bunch of these guys. Actually, I'm going to stick them elsewhere. So I'm going to grab these guys, and I'm going to show you something, because in this game, unlike the War Game stuff, Red Dragon War Game and so on, you can give orders during deployment phase. So, what I like to do while deploying is I grab the units and select them like this, and you can hit Tab key. You see, as I hit the Tab key, as long as the units are all the same type, it selects one after the other, in sequence, left to right. So what I do is I hit Tab, select a bunch of units like this, hit Tab, and Q, which is, not Q, unload at position, which is Y. And I just select the units one after the other, and issue orders like that. Now if you have a few different units, so we'll grab a BT7, put 3 BT7s down, this down, and a couple of these anti-tank guns. If you hit Tab, what it does is it selects the units of the different type. So you see, I've got the 2 anti-tank guns here, I select Tab, it selects those. I hit Tab again, it selects the BT7s, I hit Tab again, it selects the M3S. So if you want to use Tab to scroll to select units in sequence for orders, you have to have them all of the same type. Otherwise, it just picks the unit type and cycles through unit types, not individual units. And let's delete all those. Go away! I don't need you! So, we'll continue with our deployment. I'll grab a few of these guys, select them, Y, 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 and Y. Anti-tank, grab you. I'm going to have you unload there with the Y key. And we're going to need some better units over here for this, so grab you. You're going to go there. I'm going to stick a couple of these guys, as you see how I do this. Tab, Y, Tab, Y. And then a couple of tanks, which I'm going to have race up ahead just to slow down the enemy. So that gets that area set up. And you can use the various shortcut buttons, F for fast move, and you've got hunt, which is Q, you've got quick hunt, which doesn't have a shortcut key, move fast, which is F, G, which is reverse, fire position, which is T, return fire, which is Z, so you can turn on and off return fire, efficient shot, which doesn't have a shortcut key, and E for stop. As I keep just kind of selecting different units, we'll grab you. We've got a crossroads here. Drop you there. Grab the commander. Drop him there. And I kind of want a couple of these guys over here. Be careful to select just those 3. Drop it there, drop it there, drop him there. That'll do, that'll do. That's not perfect positioning, but that'll do. They have no anti-tank capability. A couple of these submachine gunners there, anti-tank on the crossroad. Like so. We need support, which will be this guy who is just going to go there. Select him. Unload. Because this is actually a nice big open area. Artillery, 82mm mortar. That'll do. And then I hit you and unload. So be sure to deploy and give orders, because a lot of people don't. If you have a bunch of different types of units selected, when you hit tab, it cycles between the different unit types, with the exception being that if they're all in the same truck, because these are some Gronostroki and then some of the Avado guys, they have the same truck, so when they're on the trucks, they all get selected at the same time, which means you have to be a bit careful depending on how you want to do things. But tab makes it a lot easier to select between units, and then you just select them like this to cycle through to give orders. And we'll be back in a minute because I'm going to trounce this AI so that I don't start getting a bunch of losses on my record that I don't want. Alrighty, some extra little pieces of advice done via the medium of paint. So, what I have seen a lot of people do is when they deploy, that is going to be a wooded area, so we'll paint this green. Everything else around this is forested. Well, everything around this is grass. There we go. Boom. Okay. And then you'll have, if we use a thick brush size, you'll have a road that kind of goes between here. Okay, so what I see a lot of people do is they get a bunch of infantry and trucks. Let's just call these a bunch of infantry and trucks. Ugly drawings. And then, when they unload them, they'll use the Y key, but they'll take all the trucks, give all these trucks the same orders, and then have them unload right here in a clump with a bunch of infantry. And then what ends up happening is people fire artillery. And just start dropping mortars and other artillery on them. And then everybody dies. So, the best thing to do is, instead of doing that, Control Z, and having all these guys giving them all the same order to drop off at the same spot in a group, you grab one truck, give it a Y order, and it unloads here. The other truck, give it a Y order, and it unloads there. This other truck, give it a Y order, follows the road, unloads over here. Give this one a Y order, and it unloads, will unload over there. Now what you have is 4 units spread out in such a way that a single artillery strike is not going to hit them all. Because now, particularly in the beginning of the game, people often only have like one mortar, so they have to pick whether they hit this guy, whether they hit this guy, whether they hit this guy, or whether they hit this guy. Otherwise, you just end up with a bunch of troops in a clump. And that is what all the artillery players are looking for. All the people with artillery. They're looking for you to grab a bunch of trucks with infantry, drive them in a clump, all as one unit, and have them unload somewhere like here in a clump, and then they'll just take artillery and just nail you with artillery shots. Okay, so let's undo all this. Now let's say you've got this here, you grabbed a few other trucks as well. We'll go back to black. So you had a few trucks on this road. This is another concept with this, which is called move dispersed, fight concentrated. So, you have these guys, they unload over here. This one comes down the road, unloads over there. This one comes down the road, unloads there. This one comes down the road, unloads here. Again, you have them spread out so that they can only hit one at a time with artillery, unless they've got a lot of artillery. And the thing is, this way you avoid concentrated artillery, because they either have to focus all their artillery on a single unit, like this, in order to take this unit out, or they spread their artillery out, which makes it correspondingly less effective. So let's say that your enemy, well, that's the wrong color, drove down this road with all of his trucks and unloaded everybody in a clump over here. and his troops start moving in a clump into the woods. Now, you can drop artillery on this. You can drop artillery here. And artillery has a area of effect, where any unit inside this area of effect gets suppressed. So if they've got 3 units and they're all in the same area of effect and a shell hits right here, they all get suppression, which is another reason why you don't clump. In many of my videos, you have seen infantry clumps where I hit them with mortars and then attack. This is precisely what happens, because they've got their 3 infantry here in a clump that they put here. My little bad-looking squares. What I then do is I launch mortars into this and hit this clump in the area of effect, which stuns all the units. And then back to the move dispersed, fight concentrated. Once these guys are suppressed, I have this guy move in that way. This guy moves in this way. And this guy moves in to the rear. And this guy moves in to the side. So this way I get local superiority, 4 versus 3 here, and they're all suppressed in a clump by my artillery. Now the best way to do this, let's undo all of these other drawings. Now what this guy should do over here is, instead of sending all units in one clump like that, 1 unit unloads over here, 1 unit unloads over here, 1 unit unloads here, and this other unit unloads here. Now he's got a unit here, 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 and here, which means if I drop artillery on one of these guys, we get red. So if I drop artillery on this guy, the area of effective stun is this area, which doesn't affect the other units. So let's say I move my guys in. I start hitting this guy. This guy goes to move in to attack. This guy goes to move in to attack. This guy goes to move in to attack. This guy is stunned, but I've got this unit here. And then here. And then here. Now he can take his units, engage into the flank, and he's got local superiority 3v1 against this guy. From there he can move on, and so on down the line, and just start dismantling everything. And he can go after my units one by one, getting local area superiority each time. So that is why you don't just take all of these guys here, drive them to a spot, unload in one spot, because you will be hit with artillery that will stun everything, and then I just take my guys and move into your stunned infantry and get them all to surrender. There have been several videos like that where you can see how well that strategy works. Like this video here, Steel Division 2, this is my forest. What we're about to watch is a perfect example of how this works. Although I don't think I use artillery for this. But I've got a bunch of infantry, they're spread out, so that they're not one giant target. Here, these guys are all clumped in one clump. So at the moment, I don't really necessarily have area, local area suppression. There's all that stuff. I start chucking grenades in there with napalm as my guys move around the flank, and it starts stunning these units one after the other. And this guy exposes himself, so my guys keep moving around the flanks. And I just use flame grenades to slowly stun as I envelop and then get these guys to eventually surrender.
Why are you still there?
Or they just straight up die. So you see, they're all dead.
Why have you
They've been enveloped and completely surrendered. Although in that case, I didn't use artillery. Yeah, this section here is another good example, because I know there's infantry here, so I take advantage of Little Sebastian's artillery barrage, because he's going to hit most of this. And now I can take a bunch of disheartened militia troops, as well as a bunch of bombers and rockets, stun all these guys with the artillery fire. Oh my god, my guys are going to be pinned by the enemy artillery. Or friendly artillery in this case, actually. So I send it in, my planes come in, drop their bombs, fire their rockets, the artillery barrage finishes, and now I give my troops a move order with the specific intention of moving through the troops that are pinned and suppressed. So we'll skip 5 seconds, a few seconds in. Now you see I'm running into their pinned and suppressed units. Yes, they do momentarily get some of mine, but I redirect these other troops to envelop, force them to be pinned since they're already pretty well suppressed, and get local superiority by enveloping and surrounding. As a result, I take these rather decent troops of the enemy and get them to surrender to a bunch of disheartened militia. So like even the Automachi there, they're going to go and surrender. But that way, if you look back at how I deployed these guys, notice they're all spread out in a line instead of one big clump. Kind of like that's a clump there. So they could target any one of these individual units, but the radius of their barrage wouldn't hit everybody at once. Another example of what happens to clumps of infantry here, because you can see the red line above being their current rate of suppression to the point that they're pinned down. I've got an ISU 152 over here that's shooting at him.
You have 3 rounds left.
And who has 3 HE rounds left. So he'll fire. He'll fire. He has fired. Now look, there's only 2 suppressed units. One guy's nearing suppression, and a couple of other guys are semi-suppressed. Boom. Now they're all suppressed, almost. More are suppressed, 1's dead, 3 are suppressed, and 4 are closer to suppression because of the area of effect of the high explosive shell. Since they're all in the area of effect, the individual units, they are all suppressed by the blast. But if you have them spread out, whoops. But if instead you have them spread out like this, let's say an ISU 152 hits this guy, this Jakari over here will be slightly suppressed. As a result, this guy will probably be almost dead. This guy won't really be affected because of the distances involved. So clumping is very bad. Don't do it. Although there's a few spots where sometimes you just kind of have to. That's why you take advantage of choke points. Let's get to my tank attack over here. I have all these tanks, and they're clumped because there just isn't any room. So we go back to this, and that is what this area here is. This is a choke point right here. So if someone's got a bunch of tanks and they want to attack, we'll just use a bunch of boxes again, and they want to attack, and they give them the hunt move order. What these tanks are going to do is, and you give them a hunt move order over here, these tanks are going to go through here and clump up because they can't go through the trees. And that's what happened to my tanks there. As a result, they could have an anti-tank gun there, an anti-tank gun here, an anti-tank gun there, and an anti-tank gun here, and they'd all be able to focus fire. And they'd be able to focus fire onto my tanks, get their flanks, and wipe them all out in here. Now, you can't always avoid that, but you can spread your tanks out. Get rid of the boxes, so I can deploy my tanks. A few over here, a few over there, maybe 3 here, and then a couple over here. Give them their attack moves, and now they're going this way, they're going this way, They're coming this way. This one's a King Tiger, I'm just going to say. Come this way, and these guys move around with my little crappy arrows. And now the anti-tank guns they had here, they now have to fire that way, this way, that way, and it's far better. They don't have the flanks as much, and they're kind of enveloped. Otherwise, you just end up with a bunch of tanks in here, focused fire by the anti-tank guns and the artillery in the back, which is precisely what happens to my tanks in that fight. We go back, see all my tanks are there, so he's got his everything engaging it, basically. And they kind of die in fairly quick succession. They do a lot of damage. And I do get the initial Cromwells and everything. But, as you can tell, each shot that goes in there adds stunning to all the other tanks around it.
Tripolstein is knocked out.
And generally it's just not as effective a way to fight. Also, because they have to maneuver around each other,
what are you doing?
They're having issues where they're exposing their flank in order to move around another tank to get a field of fire. And now that they're bringing in their new tanks, my guys are just sitting ducks.
Challenge.
And this is something I like to take advantage of with these woods. Because when someone does a big tank push like that, you've got a bunch of anti-tank guns in the back. As you can tell, here comes their artillery, taking advantage of my clustered tanks. You can really do a number on tanks trying to get through woods.
Including the command tank. That was awesome.
So, that's my tutorial on Steel Division 2. I might do more specific things and particular aspects in assaulting positions at a future time. But these are just some of the things I do on occasion and have seen lots of people do. That usually just doesn't work particularly well for anybody. And don't forget that you can give orders to troops in the deployment phase, because that is a thing a lot of people forget about, and it leaves your team at a pretty severe disadvantage if you don't take advantage of it. Bombing runs.
Are going for the Panther.
So, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
What are you doing? You didn't.
Thank you all for watching my video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to hit that stupid little bell thing that YouTube has added, because otherwise you won't get notifications of any new videos if you subscribe. Also, follow me on Twitter, @GenJeft, as I always have my video updates on there, so you will never miss a video if you're on my Twitter feed, because they'll all be posted. And any other dumbass comment I make as well. So, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.